All right, let's hit the field.
All right.
Just wanted to talk, that's all.
Today is Monday, January 29th, and spring training is right around the corner. In this episode, we'll be speaking with veteran sports writer and prospect expert from Baseball America, Kyle Glaser, to discuss the Yankees youth movement. Is Spencer Jones really a left-handed Aaron Judge? What is the latest on former top international prospect Roderick Arias? Did the Yankees rush Anthony Volpe, and will he improve in year two? And could Jason Dominguez actually live up to the hype? Those questions and more, next. This is NYY Recaps.
Welcome to Yankee Stadium.
Just when they thought I was out, they pull me back, kid.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. Joining me tonight is Kyle Glaser of Baseball America, which I spelled wrong on the screen. I'm going to fix right now. Why can't it be Baseball USA? So how you doing, Kyle?
Doing all right. Glad to be on with you here, Derek. Thanks for having me.
And thanks for taking time out for my audience. So you're obviously well-versed in prospects. Yankees have a pretty good system by all accounts these days. I've seen you talk about prospects on MLB Network. I work behind the scenes at Foul Territory. You've been on a number of times, and I thought to myself, I got to have this guy on to talk a little bit of Yankees prospects. So if you don't mind, we'll begin with the biggest of Yankees prospects, and that is in a literal way. Spencer Jones, 810 OPS in his minor league career, 25th overall pick in 2022, 6'6", 235 pounds. So echoes of Aaron Judge, but a big left-hander. So how does Baseball America project Spencer Jones, and what are your thoughts on what the Yankees should know about him?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm out here in Southern California, so I saw Spencer Jones when he was a junior at La Costa Canyon High School as a pitcher, but you also saw him as a hitter in the outfield. And what really stands out about him is just how athletic he is. Yes, he's a big boy, but he moves so much better than most other guys who are 6'6", 230 plus. And that athleticism really, really helps him make adjustments. Again, he went to Vanderbilt considered a better pitcher than a hitter. Some injuries ended his pitching career. He transitioned into a full-time position player, and he's really turned himself into one of the best prospects. So that ability, that athleticism, that aptitude to adjust is really, really encouraging. I think with him, anytime you're talking about a guy that big with that long of levers, there are some strikeout issues there that we're going to have to see how he adjusts, closes his holes as he moves up and faces better pitching. You can see it going a couple different ways. A guy who's this physically gifted, this athletic, makes those adjustments and is able to make enough contact to get to his enormous raw power and be that middle of the order hitter. But you can also see a scenario where as the pitching gets better, the holes get exploited more and more, the strikeouts go up, and he just doesn't make enough contact. I think ultimately, for me, you're going to bet on the athleticism, the aptitude to say you feel good about him potentially getting there, but you have to acknowledge the risk as well. By no means is this a slam dunk type of situation.
So two follow-ups on Spencer Jones. You mentioned that he was a pitcher. That must mean he's got a pretty good arm from the outfield, huh?
Yeah, no, I mean, he could bring it as a junior at La Costa Canyon High School. He was already throwing, low 90s from the left side. He was someone that, you could project would maybe get up to the mid 90s. Again, he didn't develop that way. Just injuries kind of short-circuited that. But he can definitely gun someone down from right field. Again, he's athletic enough to play center field potentially. It depends a little bit on who else is on the roster. But just as we've seen Aaron Judge play center field, heck, Adam Duvall was the starting center fielder on a World Series team for the Braves in 2021. Guys who are good corner outfielders who can play center as needed. He kind of fits that mold. So some of this is going to depend on, too, how much bigger does he get? He's still a young kid. If he balloons up to 250, 260, maybe that changes. But just in his current physical form, his current level of athleticism, yeah, you can see him playing an everyday right field and having the arm to keep base runners honest. Or you could see him sliding over to center if needed in the major leagues. And he would, again, have an arm there that would really make runners think twice from trying to take an extra base on him.
One thing that gets me excited is the 43 stolen bases. Now, I know that doesn't necessarily translate to the major leagues because Volpe had 50 and then had 24 in the major leagues. Yeah. But that tells me he's got some speed and he's aggressive, which is always fun to watch, especially when we're watching the Yankees over these years. It hasn't been a very athletic group for the most part.
Yeah, and again, that goes back to I talk about his pitching background. He's always been a guy who moved well for his size, has an athletic swing. So there's no question that athleticism plays in a number of different ways. And would I expect him to steal 20 bags in the major leagues? Probably not, but if he's a guy who gets to his power, hits 30 bombs a year, and he steals 10 to 15 bases and does some good things on the base pass, scores from second on a single where maybe some other guys, they would be stuck at third, or good first to third. I mean, there's a number of ways you can add base running value, and he's athletic enough that you can see him contributing positively in that fashion.
Yeah. The next guy I want to talk about is another top prospect that is known for having a great eye and some athletic ability. He's a switch hitter, shortstop, but we haven't seen him much because he's in the low end of the minor leagues and he got hurt. Roderick Arias, #1 international signee a couple of years ago. What can you tell us about the brief stint that he had last year? I know it was interrupted by injury, but I don't know what he injured. And how do you project him going forward?
Yeah, you certainly see a lot of very, very exciting things. Roderick Arias was considered in many corners to be the single best international prospect in his class. And when he was on the field last year, he really, really impressed a lot of folks. He controls the strike zone really, really well for his age. It's easy power. He has a real chance to stick at shortstop. He swings and misses in the strike zone more than you would like. But again, he's a young kid. We'll see what adjustments he makes and just as he matures and moves up. The biggest thing with him is he's just got to stay healthy. Both of his first 2 seasons have been limited by injury. He only played 32 games in the DSL, 27 games in the FCL last year. So he's got to stay on the field. That's the #1 thing. But you certainly see the athleticism, you see the natural strength, you see the ability to play shortstop. There's a lot to get really, really excited about with Roderick Arias. Again, young kid has to stay healthy. He's still a long way away, but the tools are there to get excited about.
So how is he as a defender? At shortstop, we have a pretty good defensive shortstop right now. If he's ready, let's say in a couple of years, is that something that, they would move Volpe off the position for? Or is he a guy who could slide over to second, third base, something like that?
Yeah, again, a lot of that's going to depend on how he matures physically. If he blows up and gets bigger and stronger, like a lot of kids who are teenagers in the complex levels, maybe he does need to move to third base. He has the arm to play third. This isn't a situation where he lacks the arm and you say, he has to move to second. He has the physique, the arm, and the overall athleticism to handle third base and the quick reactions over there. So at the end of the day, Anthony Volpe is the guy who got there first. He comparatively is the better prospect in terms of just where he ranked at his peak compared to where Arias ranks now. So it's going to be Volpe's position to lose. I would say, again, Volpe has some things to work on, as we'll talk about. But when you look at him defensively, you feel pretty good about saying, yeah, he'll stick at shortstop. I think more realistically, Volpe stays at short. Arias is probably their third baseman. But again, we're talking 3, 4, 5 years. A lot can change in that time.
Well, let's talk about Volpe since he's going to be around for the next maybe decade or so. 209 average kind of disappointed a lot of fans, I feel like. But he showed some good pop. He showed some clutch ability. He hit some big home runs. 24 stolen bases, I believe. Won a Gold Glove. Great clubhouse kid. Doesn't take a play off defensively. But yet, still a large segment of Yankees fans, and myself included at times, think that he looked a little bit overmatched last year, especially at the plate. Do you think the Yankees maybe rushed him, and do you think he projects to be a better hitter than what we saw last year?
Yes and yes. You got to remember, he only played 22 games in AAA. And to his credit, he went out and won the starting shortstop job in spring training. He went out and took the job. All credit goes to him for doing that. But there's no question, offensively, he was not ready. And we even saw that. He didn't have a great offensive year in 2022. He hit 249. The strikeouts were a little higher than you would have liked against AA, AAA pitching. He's a littler guy with a big swing, and you saw him get off balance at times. You saw him overswing at times. Again, there's power in there. You see the power speed combination. He's a really, really smart kid, super instinctive, but knowing who he is, his approach, again, there are times he just got too big with his swing. Some of that's going to come with experience. Maybe he was pressing a little bit. I think we will see a better version of Anthony Volpe as a hitter. Again, he's not going to hit 209 with a 283 on base percentage for his entire career. Frankly, if he does, he's not going to be the Yankees starting shortstop. He's better than that. Is he going to be a 300 hitter? Probably not, but could he get to 260 with 20 homers, 20 steals, and really good defense at short? I think it's possible, but he definitely has work to do to get there. I do think we'll see more of the quote-unquote real Anthony Volpe year 2, year 3, and beyond than we saw last year.
Yeah. One thing that I did like about Anthony Volpe, especially on defense, is just how heads up he is, right?
Yeah.
He's a guy, he'll throw behind the runner who's trying to take third on a ground ball to short. And, he's, it seems like, there were times that even as a young player, he would go and talk to the pitcher and kind of settle him down. I think that projects well, right? Because the smarter you are, the more you're going to learn.
Yep.
I think his arm could probably stand to be a little bit stronger at shortstop. I think he ranks in about the 25th percentile, but he releases it so quick. I mean, it's like a pinball machine, baby. It hits his glove and it's gone. Do you think that he's got potential to be, an even higher caliber defender?
Yeah, absolutely. Going back to his amateur days, the book on Anthony Volpe was always super instinctive, super smart, super heads-up baseball player whose raw tools maybe were not as loud as some of the other kids in his class. But as you talked about, that baseball instinct, ability, just knowing where to go with the baseball, being heads up on the field at all times, that goes a long way. And I think with Anthony Volpe, we saw it last year. I think we'll continue to see it grow. In terms of his arm strength, again, some of that's just going to depend on, how he maybe works on his footwork a little bit, if he just gets a little bit stronger physically in the weight room. But you mentioned that quick release, that internal clock makes a huge difference. And that goes back to those instincts, that just understanding of the game, the feel for the game. At the end of the day, he gets the guy out. So, even if the StatCast metric arm strength isn't great, there's not many times where he said, man, he should have had him, but the throw wasn't in time. He still gets the runner. So, there's different ways to do it. And that internal clock he has certainly gets the job done.
All right. So this next guy is somebody that we have talked about a lot on this channel. He's one of the most hyped international prospects of all time that I can remember. And I'm partially responsible for that hype. So you're welcome, America. Jason Dominguez. I look at him and I think about that scene from the movie Air. I don't know if you've seen it, where Matt Damon's character is scouting Michael Jordan and he sees a guy who's relaxed and wants the ball. You look at Jason Dominguez, this kid is relaxed and he wants to be there in the big spot. He mashed in spring training. He mashed in his first week in the major leagues, obviously before he got hurt. I started to believe my own hype. What are your thoughts on what you saw from Jason Dominguez? How does Baseball America project him based on what we've seen? And also, what's the history of guys coming back from Tommy John as a hitter at a young age like that?
Yeah, so in terms of Jason Dominguez, you talk about the makeup and that calmness. What really jumped out was when he was in the Florida State League, you have to remember, signed $5.1 million signing bonus, all the hype in the world. Then the pandemic happened, which in a way only increased the hype because there was this mystery surrounding him. And I mean, he came out in the FSL and he was being hounded all the time as a teenager in a foreign country trying to get adapted to life in the US. And he handled it like a true pro. And that was really telling. And what was impressive too on the field was he went through a lot of struggles. There were a lot of times where you saw him and he would have a bad month, bad 2 months, bad 3 months even. And you kind of start to wonder, okay, is this, hype? Did he just blossom too early? But he always found a way to make adjustments and get better. And so you see that poise he has off the field combined with that ability to stay calm, stay composed, make the adjustments needed to be successful on the field. That's a really, really promising place to start. You see the power. I think the big question with him is once he starts facing major league pitching on a more regular basis, guys see him second, third, fourth time through the league and get to know his holes. How's he going to adjust? It's definitely power over hit. He's also a very big boy at a young age. So there's some question about, okay, how is he going to age? We do see guys, sometimes they're that big, that young, struggle with injuries. Again, Tommy John, not really a part of that. That's not related. So there are some questions about how is he going to develop physically moving forward? How much contact is he ultimately going to make? But you believe in the power. You believe in the person. I think at minimum, he should be a good contributor to the Yankees. Comparing him to Mickey Mantle, Mike Trout, that's not fair. That's never been fair. But can he be an everyday starting outfielder who hits for power? Definitely. And if he can make some adjustments, as pitchers get used to seeing him through the league a second, third, fourth time, maybe he will hit for enough average. You can start saying, yeah, maybe this is a guy who does scrape an all-star type a career.
So there's a couple of things that I'm really excited about for Jason Dominguez this year. So when I watch him, I see a guy who spits on very close pitches. He even in spring training, taking pitches just a hair off the plate.
Yeah.
I think teaming up with Juan Soto and playing with him and seeing how he approaches at bats, and they might even hit in the same top of the lineup together, depending on if they put Dominguez in the leadoff spot. I think there's a real dynamic where he can learn from Juan Soto there. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, by the way, I apologize. This glare as the sun is setting is not the best look in the background. I apologize.
It's funny. The sun is so far away, but it can still cause trouble.
Yeah, here on the West Coast, it's still 4:15, so the sun is setting. Yeah, I think the biggest thing with him, you mentioned spitting on pitches, finding that balance between being too passive and being just aggressive enough. That was something that happened to him in the minor leagues a little bit. He'd get too passive at times, and there were times in the strike zone he'd get beat, in part because he would fall behind 0-2. And I think getting with Juan Soto, depending, of course, on if Soto resigns with the Yankees, no question that Tulich can help him find that balance. That's something every young hitter goes through, finding the balance between selective enough and aggressive enough. And I think over time, again, we just have to see, A, how he comes back from injury, and B, again, we've seen him make adjustments in the past. We've seen him maintain his poise, his calm when he goes through elongated slumps and people start to question him. And I think that's just a really good sign for him moving forward in his career.
I'm really excited about him. There's one more topic we got to talk about, and that's just kind of like the plethora of Yankees prospects we got. There's a few guys I want to touch on. Everson Pereira, who struggled last year. Austin Wells, who struggled to begin the year and then played a little bit better. And there's one guy that I don't know a lot about, but I like his swing, and I was hoping that you know a little bit about him, and that's Yorbit Vivas, who they just got from the Dodgers. Yeah. So if you want to just kind of, flex your baseball knowledge on our system there, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, look, Austin Wells has long shown an ability to hit. The question has always been, is he going to catch? He works hard back there. The ability level probably isn't what you want to see. I think Yankees fans have certainly had a long history of watching a catcher not do great things back there with Gary Sanchez. So I think more realistically, he ends up a first base DH type, but the left-handed bat should play. Again, made his debut last year, saw some things to work on. That's every young hitter. And Pereira as well. Look, he definitely struggled last year. I think trying to judge him off and trying to judge anyone off their first big league stint is a mistake. All I have to do is look back at Aaron Judge's first big league stint. And
very true.
You can see, so I think he's a very talented player. There's a lot of scouts out there who actually think he's more talented than Jason Dominguez. Dominguez is just more famous. But Pereira has long had a history of injuries and has had trouble staying healthy. So the biggest thing with him is just going to be staying healthy. Yorbit Vivas, I know him very well. I'm out here in Southern California, saw him when he was at Rancho Cucamonga, did the Dodger system for us. He's interesting because he's got that short, direct, quick left-handed swing. Last year, he started getting a little too big and trying to hit for power. We see some of the littler guys fall into that trap of trying to become power hitters and losing what made them good in the first place at times. The biggest thing with him is just going to be maintaining his approach of, hey, you're a singles and doubles hitter. Don't try and be Babe Ruth out there. He has the potential to be a starting second baseman type who hits number 9 in the lineup, hits for average, gets on base, singles, doubles, turns the lineup over. That's the best version of him. I do think, given the way his swing started to trend last year, though, you have to be a little bit concerned and be a little bit watchful to make sure he doesn't start getting too big. I will say the guy who impressed me most in the system last year was Chase Hampton. I admittedly did not have a ton of history with him, but watching him pitch last year, it's real stuff. There's feel, there's command. He's someone that has a chance to be an effective homegrown arm in the Yankees rotation, which frankly they haven't had much recently because they typically trade their pitching prospects.
Right.
He's a guy, again, not an ace, not a Garrett Cole type or anything, but a good, solid number 3, number 4 starter, which if you want to win in the postseason, you need.
Kyle Glaser. You are a
motherfucker. That's right.
I appreciate your baseball knowledge, man. Your prospect knowledge is unparalleled. Thanks for taking some time with us today.
My pleasure. Happy to join you.
And ladies and gentlemen, you can catch him in Baseball America. He's on all the baseball shows, Foul Territory, MLB Network, all that stuff. And follow him because he knows what he's talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, we will see you next time.